Volunteers are needed to help renters find a place to live.
It's part of a larger effort to prevent homelessness in Brown County. Kristen Allen joining us live in the newsroom this morning. Kristen, what will these volunteers be doing?
Well, they're needed for a program called Rent Smart, which is a program designed by UW Extension. It's basically education for renters. Volunteers can be anyone, landlords, financial planners, teachers. Rent Smart already exists within several agencies in the community, but it's only available to the clients who utilize those agencies. There is an effort to make it more broadly available throughout Brown County, so that's why these volunteers are needed. As a volunteer, you'll go through a virtual training process and then meet monthly to every 2 months. The goal of the program is for renters to have all of the tools and skills they need to be successful at maintaining housing and avoiding any evictions, which creates a significant barrier to finding housing in the future.
I think the biggest components come down to providing a baseline knowledge for renters, some maybe first-time renters who don't know what to expect in a rental. They don't know whose responsibility it is to, take care of light fixtures or replace light bulbs, or when to call the landlord about an issue or when not to.
The Brown County Homeless and Housing Coalition also hopes that landlords will recognize the Rent Smart program as something that's successful and rent to people who may be facing some of those barriers, such as prior evictions or poor rental history. The Rent Smart program is expected to be available later this year. If you're interested in volunteering, you can visit our website, WBAY.com. Steve?